Two nuclear-armed longtime rivals in South Asia are once again facing off after a deadly terror strike on tourists in Pahalgam in Kashmir. But this time the stakes feel different and much higher. What is driving the shift this time around? That's because the South Asian region's key military alliance have changed. Key arms deals now reveal who stands with whom in this tense nuclear-armed triangle that is India, Pakistan and China. India has moved closer to the West over the last 20 years. Once a country that was proudly non-aligned is now buying billions of dollars of worth American and European weapons. Meanwhile, India has slashed arms purchases from Russia, which has been a partner since the Cold War. Today, about 1/5 of India's arms imports come from the United States. 2 decades ago, over half of that came from Moscow. Now that has dropped to just over a third. It is a sign of how fast the defense landscape is changing between India, America, and Russia. Pakistan, on the other hand, is headed in the opposite direction. Once a major buyer of American weapons, it is now leaning that much harder on China. China is where most of Pakistan's military hardware is today coming from. In fact, from 4.5-generation fighter jets to Corvette-class warships and now increasingly armored aerial vehicles, Pakistan imports almost 80% of all its military equipment from China. This weapons realignment has dragged global superpower politics much deeper into South Asia's longest-running conflict. Washington sees India as a key partner to counter Beijing. China, in turn, has tightened its embrace of Pakistan, just as America grows closer to India. But India and Pakistan might be caught in a bigger clash which could shape the remainder of the 21st century, which is the one between America and China. India and Pakistan could be mere proxies in this larger battle. Tensions between India and China have also spiked in recent years, fueled by a long-standing border dispute. At the same time, US-China ties are at the lowest point, particularly since President Donald Trump launched a bruising trade war with Beijing. America has slapped tariffs as high as 145% on Beijing, something which Trump has suggested he will dial down if both sides meet at the negotiating table. It is a volatile brew. Shifting alliances, old rivalries, nuclear weapons, and 3 countries that are at the brink. It's a deadly cocktail where any single mistake could spin out of control. Over the last 2 decades, America has become central to India's defense plans. China is now filling that gap for Pakistan. After the April 22nd terror attack in Pahalgam, India struck back with Operation Sindoor. But this time, Washington was more openly supportive. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke directly with both President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, who was here when the Pahalgam attack happened. American leaders have been urging caution, but their support between India and Pakistan is very clearly on the Indian side. Many in Delhi are seeing that as a go-ahead for retaliation. China has responded in kind, loudly backing Pakistan and calling Pakistan an ironclad friend. These shifting loyalties are now beginning to show on the battlefield. So any future war between India and Pakistan could play out something like this. US and NATO weapon systems on one side actively backing India, Chinese technology on the other supporting Pakistan. Not long ago, the Cold War shaped these sides and these ideologies. India stayed outside the formal blocs of America or USSR, but India leaned heavily on the Soviet Union for its weapons. Moscow, once upon a time, used to supply nearly 2/3 of all of India's military gear. Now that has changed. Pakistan took the opposite route. It tied itself tightly with the United States, helping America fight the Soviets in Afghanistan. In return, Pakistan got American gear, including the much-coveted F-16 fighter jets, which helped reduce the gap between India and Pakistan's air powers. But both countries paid a price in the 1990s. After testing nuclear bombs, both countries faced American sanctions. Pakistan even had to wait for years to receive dozens of F-16s for which it had already paid money. All of that changed after 9/11. Pakistan once again became a key US partner, this time in the war on terror. Billions of US military aid followed. Washington was back as Pakistan's top military supplier. China was a close behind. Even as Pakistan was accused of sheltering Taliban leaders, and despite the fact that Osama bin Laden was found inside Pakistan, the American military kept sending money and weapons to Pakistan. But as American involvement in Afghanistan ended, Pakistan's value in Washington declined. China stepped up in the value chain. In the mid-2000s, China provided just under 40% of Pakistan's arms. Today, that number has doubled to 80%, according to data available from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI. India's shift has been just as dramatic. Between 2006 and 2010, Russia supplied about 70% of India's major weapons. In the last 10 years, that figure has dropped to 38%. Most of India's new hardware now doesn't come from Russia. It comes from the United States or France or Israel. There is one exception in all of this, and that is the F-16s which have been given to Pakistan. Despite all of these tensions between India and Pakistan, the United States continues to service and support the large fleet of F-16s. The Biden administration even approved a $400 million deal to maintain the large fleet of F-16s. Back in 2019, at the height of the Balakot strikes, one of those F-16s was shot down by an Indian jet, a made-in-Russia MiG-21 Bison, which was being commanded by Wing Commander Abhinandan, who fell into Pakistani territory. India accused Pakistan of breaking American rules by using the plane outside anti-terror operations. F-16s were not meant to be deployed against India, but the damage had already been done. This is the new arms race of South Asia. There are familiar players, but there are new partners. Pakistan with China, India with America, and there's a growing risk that old enemies who are now armed with new support may once again clash. This time, they've got far more powerful tools at hand. The shifting sands of South Asia carry a much deeper meaning. India and Pakistan may be mere proxies caught in the great power game between the United States and China.